Meditation is not an escape from life, but a step into the deep flow of life, where God is present in every breath. Paramahansa Yogananda. The modern world, with its dizzying speed of technology, work pressure, psychological fluctuations, makes the soul always crave a way back, a place of peace, filled with divine light. Looking back, we see countless spiritual paths: the path of service, the path of knowledge, the path of love, the path of asceticism. But why does Yogananda call Kriya Yoga the speedboat of spiritual evolution? Is there a secret hidden behind each breath, a metaphysical force hidden behind each stream of prana, capable of taking us through thousands of lifetimes of practice in just one lifetime? This question is the starting point to embark on a journey to discover the sacred secret of Kriya Yoga. The sacred origin of Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is an ancient science of the soul. In the deep forests of the Himalayas, thousands of years ago, the rishis, the sages of India, discovered that the breath is the visible bridge between body, mind, soul. In the lineage, Kriya Yoga is closely guarded. From Mahavatar Babaji, the immortal master of the Himalayas, passed on to Lahiri Mahasaya. From Lahiri Mahasaya, the seed was given to Sri Yukteswar Giri. And from Sri Yukteswar, the seed blossomed in the heart of Paramahansa Yogananda, who then carried Kriya Yoga across the ocean to the west. This secrecy is not due to selfishness, but because Kriya is the ultimate key, which can only be opened when the aspirant is truly ready. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Yogananda writes, "Kriya Yoga is the science of union, the direct path to oneness with God." When he came to the West in the 1920s, Yogananda found that the modern human mind was mature enough to accept this method. Why is Kriya Yoga a speedboat? In the history of Indian spirituality, there are countless paths to enlightenment. Bhakti Yoga, the path of love and devotion, where one offers one's heart to God. The practitioner cleanses the ego in tears of love, and in devotion, one finds light. Karma Yoga, the path of selfless action, where every mundane task becomes a ritual, every action is an offering. The practitioner learns to do without expecting anything in return, and it is in that renunciation that one approaches God. Jnana Yoga, the path of metaphysical wisdom, where sharp thinking and deep contemplation reveal the truth. The practitioner becomes a sage, using wisdom to destroy ignorance. But in that magnificence, there still exists a method that goes straight to the root of life, that is Kriya Yoga. It does not deny any path, on the contrary, it integrates, supports, and transcends by directly touching the source of energy of the body, mind, soul. Kriya Yoga, the science of root energy. While other paths go through emotions, actions, or intellect, Kriya Yoga goes straight to the breath, that is, prana, the subtle energy that operates life in every cell. Paramahansa Yogananda called it, controlling the wheel of life and death right in the very veins of the soul. Each cycle of inhalation, exhalation according to Kriya is not just a physiological operation, but a miniature cosmic vortex. In it, the practitioner actively guides the prana flow through the Sushumna Nadi, the central energy channel running along the spine, which is considered the highway connecting humans with the infinite. If ordinary people unconsciously inhale and exhale, repeating thousands of times a day, but are still bound to the cycle of birth and death, then the Kriya practitioner turns the breath itself into a tool of liberation. Each conscious breath becomes a step out of samsara, each Kriya cycle is equivalent to many years of natural meditation. The bullet train metaphor. Imagine two journeys. One person walks across the Himalayas, each arduous step, taking many years. Another person steps on a high-speed train through the tunnel of light, and in a few hours has traveled thousands of miles. That is the difference between the ordinary path of practice and Kriya Yoga. Other methods can also lead to enlightenment, but Kriya accelerates the process of spiritual evolution, quickly releasing heavy layers of karma, bringing the practitioner closer to the state of union with God in one lifetime. Yogananda's affirmation. He taught, Kriya Yoga is a spaceship that carries the soul back to the eternal home. This is not just a metaphor, but reflects an inner reality. For in the experience of samadhi, meditative union, the practitioner truly feels as if he is traveling in an ocean of light, transcending the boundaries of time and space. The secret of cosmic breath. In the Vedic scriptures, there is a truth that is repeated over and over again: prana is life, and life is prana. Each breath we take not only carries oxygen, but also cosmic energy, the invisible life stream that nourishes both body and soul. Breathing, a miniature cycle of reincarnation. When we inhale, the soul enters a cycle of life. When we exhale, we leave that cycle of life. And so on, millions of breaths in a lifetime become the symbol of reincarnation, birth, existence, death, and then rebirth. But people often live in ignorance, breathing unconsciously. Each breath becomes a link in the chain of bondage, not the key to liberation. Kriya Yoga, the art of freeing the soul from the shackles of breath. Kriya turns the breath into a loyal servant instead of an invisible master. When practitioners inhale according to Kriya, they are not only bringing air into the lungs, but are also leading the prana through the spine, awakening the energy centers, chakras. When practitioners exhale, it is not just exhausting air, but also releasing karma, opening the door for the soul to rise. This is why Yogananda called Kriya Yoga the science of liberation from breath. Because when still bound by breath, people are still imprisoned in a cycle of birth and death. But when they master the breath, they touch the ultimate freedom. Today, research has proven breathing directly affects the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, regulating heart rate, blood pressure, and state of mind. Deep, slow breathing increases the activity of alpha and theta brain waves, states of meditation, creativity, and superconsciousness. But Kriya goes beyond physiology. It not only affects the body, but opens the door to the mystical. When the breath becomes subtle, almost stopping, the practitioner enters the state of no breath, Kevala Kumbhaka. There, the soul is dissolved in the infinite ocean of light, no longer separated, no longer limited. River, ocean metaphor. Imagine the breath as a river. The ignorant person only sees the river flowing through his life and is swept away. But the Kriya practitioner knows how to steer, knowing that the river is actually flowing to the boundless ocean of God. When the practitioner masters the breath, he is no longer a drifter, but becomes a conscious sailor, leading the soul's boat to the shore of the eternal sea. Kriya Yoga and the science of the brain, energy. Paramahansa Yogananda once said, Kriya Yoga does not contradict science. It is the ultimate science, the science of the soul. Indeed, the deeper we study Kriya, the more we find it to be a sophisticated system of energy and consciousness, in full accord with modern scientific discoveries. Prana and the nervous system. According to Yogananda, Kriya Yoga is the art of operating prana, the cosmic life force, in the spine and brain. When prana is consciously controlled, it cleanses the nerve wires that are corroded by stress, fear, and desire. The result is The mind becomes clear, focused, and calm. The brain enters a higher state of activity, releasing dormant potentials. Consciousness expands, in touch with the depths of oneself. In practice, the practitioner feels a subtle electromagnetic current running down the spine, as if there is a river of light flowing inside. This is not an illusion, but a real energy flow that is purifying and restructuring the nervous system. Pineal gland, gateway to the superconscious. Modern science has shown that the pineal gland is the organ related to biological rhythms, to the perception of time, and also has a connection with spiritual experience. This coincides wonderfully with the experiences in Kriya Yoga. When prana is raised, the practitioner often feels an inner glow in the middle of the forehead, or a subtle ringing sound from the inner world. DNA and vibrational frequency. Some pioneering research suggests that human DNA is not just a static, biological code, but can also vibrate at a frequency, responding to sound, light, and consciousness. Deep meditation, especially Kriya, has the ability to change the body's vibrational frequency, thereby activating parts of DNA that are dormant. In spiritual terms, it is the awakening of the divine potential that lies within each person, the capacity for infinite love, transcendent intuition, and union with the Great Self. Transcendental experiences. Long-term Kriya practitioners often report experiences such as inner light, beams of brilliant blue, yellow, and white light, like the cosmic sky opening up in the mind. Cosmic sound, a deep, all-encompassing resonance, like the sound of wind, the ringing of bells, or an invisible symphony. Ocean of compassion, feeling oneself melting, no longer a small ego, but becoming a drop of water returning to the ocean of infinite love. The teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Of all that Yogananda left to the world, perhaps the most quintessential is the teaching. Kriya Yoga is the scientific method to meet God. He did not exaggerate. But at the same time, Yogananda also emphasized that technique is not the end, but only the means. Technique, only the door. Yogananda often said, "Do not turn Kriya into a dry ritual. Kriya is the bridge, but love is the step that takes us to the other shore." The most important thing is still love for God, the desire to return to the light. If the practitioner only focuses on technique and forgets the heart, then Kriya becomes a mental exercise and not a path to liberation. Humility and inner transformation. In his satsangs, spiritual meetings, he often reminded, Kriya practitioners must keep a humble mind. Kriya is not for showing off, but for self-transformation. Kriya is not a spiritual status mark, but a healing medicine for the heart and soul. Yogananda always emphasized, every time you practice Kriya, you bathe in the river of God's grace. Experience the grace in Kriya. Kriya practitioners with an open mind will gradually feel anxiety disappears, giving way to a deep peace. The rigid ego is removed, replaced by natural compassion. The individual will merges with the universal will, like a drop of dew dissolving in the dawn. Kriya is not only the path to encounter God, but also the art of living in love, in humility, in harmony with all. And that is the spirit Yogananda left for posterity. A path that is both scientific and spiritual, both practical and transcendent. Whether a monk or a layperson, everyone can walk it, to find paradise within their own souls. Practice experience, sharing for journeyers. What will I experience when practicing Kriya? Yogananda knew that spiritual experience is not like a trip with a fixed schedule, but like a flower blooming according to the season. Each person, each disposition, each aspiration will open differently. Initial experiences. In the initial stage, the practitioner often notices a subtle peace, light as a passing wind. The breath becomes slow, even, seemingly without a burden. The whole body seems to let go, relaxed, but the mind is clearer than ever. Next, some people feel subtle electric currents moving along the spine, not physical electricity, but the life force prana that lurks in every cell. At that moment, the body is no longer a heavy mass, but like a delicate instrument being played by the invisible hand of God. And then, as the silence deepens, the ego gradually dissolves. The Kriya practitioner no longer sees the boundary between the body and space, but only a sea of light, an infinite flow of love pervading everywhere. Yogananda's warning. But Yogananda always reminds: do not run after experience. Let God decide when He will reveal Himself. He wants us to understand that if we cling to phenomena, to light, sound, electricity, we will stop at the threshold without going deeper into the temple of God. The core condition, sincerity.